All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking about real music in real time for real people just like you and just like me. So, I'm starting like a new series of videos that I'll be, dropping an occasional video here and there about what I call no longer on the radio. It's going to be the topic. I used to do the war on such and such a band, which didn't capture really what I was trying to say, but it got people interested in the topics, which I think is important. But I'm going to be doing, a lot of groups that just for some reason are no longer on the radio. I, of course, blame all of the corporate folks who do focus testing and think that we're all kind of dumb and we just can only listen to certain songs over and over again. Today, I'm going to talk about White Lion. White Lion, no longer on the radio. This is Mike Tramp. He was supposed to go out on tour this year. Not sure if those plans are going forward or postponed. No idea, but Mike Tramp, kind of the leader of White Lion, and he was going to be doing 100% vintage White Lion songs. And like so many other bands that hit the grunge apocalypse, as I like to call it, this band was hitting on all cylinders, especially on their album Pride. There are 2 tracks that could be played today on the radio, and if you hear them on a radio station near you, kudos to that radio station. I have never heard a White Lion song on any of the radio formats in my area, because classic rock doesn't really acknowledge White Lion as a classic rock band, even though I think age at this point would dictate that, but I don't understand. So they're not on classic rock. They're not on mainstream rock, which, again, that format does not cater to anything that's not in like the top 3 or 4 things of the last century. They'll play Led Zeppelin or Black Sabbath. They'll play something that's kind of dark that goes along with the music that they're playing now, fits their format. Occasionally something gets through, like Dirty Honey, which is a new band, but you won't really hear Greta Van Fleet too, but they don't do a recurring format. In other words, you won't be hearing those bands. Once those songs die out, they're not in regular rotation. They'll go back to playing Ozzy, and then they'll play like Disturbed or something. So it's a different world. So these guys really don't have any kind of support system. On an 80s show, you could play White Lion for sure. But again, I don't hear them. And so radio has completely forgotten about these guys. AOR stations, the ones that still exist, and they do like 2 for Tuesday, if they're still doing that stuff, you could play Wait and When the Children Cry if you wanted to, and I think fans would love it. Other albums, Big Game came out, and they had a really good version of Radar Love, and then the song Little Fighter. What was different about White Lion is they actually sang about important stuff. The lyrics were deep. They weren't just, hey, baby, cruising down the road kind of stuff. This was socially aware, and anyway, maybe that just threw heavy metal fans for a loop, but it didn't seem to bother them when it came to selling records and so forth. It's just kind of sad when you look at chart performance. They were on their way up, and by the time you get to 1982, of course, everything gets shut down, musically speaking, which there's a kind of similar feeling right now with the world. But for bands that were making melodic rock, and this band even had a social conscience, and they were still obviously told to pound sand, and that's it, no more. So in any event, no longer on the radio, White Lion. There are at least 2 songs they could play, the 2 I mentioned, but you could probably dig out at least 2 more, maybe 3 more, if you're really adventurous. I'm not saying that you have to play the deepest track off of any White Lion record, but it would make for some decent variety if some of these radio stations started to kind of go back and look and see what they've focus tested out and what might be decent to add back in and give their other beaten to death songs a break. Because one thing about growing up through the 80s and early 90s is that you had a couple of formats. You had the mainstream rock charts, and then you had Billboard's Top 40. And you could have a number one song on the mainstream rock charts that doesn't get anywhere near the Billboard Top 40. There was a song Randy Newman recorded with Mark Knopfler on guitar. It's a song called It's Money That Matters. The song went to number one on the mainstream rock charts. I'm pretty sure that song, it might have hit the Hot 100, but it certainly didn't get into the top 40 or anywhere near it. And there are numerous examples of that happening throughout the 1980s. So depending on what radio station you listened to during the 80s, you would be, like if I was listening to rock stations, and I knew what was on the top 40, but I listened to rock stations, and my musical formation came from a couple of radio stations, WCOZ in Boston, 94 HJY out of Providence, which still exists, WBCN up in Boston, and WAAF out in Worcester, Massachusetts, all of whom were just playing mainstream rock, and they were great radio stations, and those types of stations have disappeared because those stations used to honor all the music that came prior and then mixed in the newer tracks that were coming down the pike. And if you're in Worcester, literally coming down the pike, Boston as well. So anyway, that's my video. No longer on the radio, White Line. Kind of a shame. There'll be more of these, and your memory will probably get jarred or jogged as I do this segment because there are so many groups that are now either rarely played or you play maybe one song by this artist, but then you don't play anything else by them, which again, we're going to find some of those too, and I'm still going to include them. I will say, hey, yeah, they play this one song by this group, and that's it. And they have this huge catalog. I was saying that after Eddie Money had left planet Earth, that there was so much music that doesn't get played by Eddie Money anymore that used to always be on the radio. But, you know, they narrowed it down to like 5 songs, 3 songs, whatever it is that they play, and it's just stupid. All right, folks, I'm done with this one. Be back soon. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Also, you can join via Patreon. Click on the logo, Patreon logo, takes you over to Patreon. Times are getting a little tough here. People are unsubscribing and so forth. I understand because of what's happening, that people are afraid financially to support me. I'm just asking if you can hang in there for like $1 a month. That would be really helpful to me and my family, as this is what I do for a living, and it's a good job because I'm self-quarantined, and it works out. So thanks for supporting me if you already do, and I will talk to you soon.